I had a false arm with a hook on the end of it, silver hook. So I called I set up an agency called Hook Advertising. It was the thing that everybody remembered me for, but it was the thing you could ring up, you could do a pitch, and you could walk in, and you could ring later on, about 6 weeks later, and you say to the man with the hook on the phone, and they would all, yeah, we know who that is, because I was the only one doing it. I decided to confront disability and stigma, and it's interesting. I usually ask a question at the beginning of the lecture, which is, has anybody got any questions? People never ask you any questions because it's at the beginning of the lecture. The question they all want to ask is, how did you lose your arm? And kids are great, because kids, they say, where's your arm? And I was watching the supermarket, and there was a child tugging on the mother's sleeve, and she was busily doing the shopping. And she turned around and she said, he was going, he was trying to get her attention. And she said, look, I've told you, it's rude to whisper. So he goes, look, there's a man with a hook. And she turned around and she went, shh. Mental illness is a flaw in your health, not in your character. And that's a very important statement, because I think a lot of people think that people, because of the stigma associated with mental illness, people are suspicious. They're suspicious of the uncertainty that surrounds mental illness, and they're ignorant of what actually goes on. 10 years after I lost my arm, I was married, and I always used to anticipate something amazing would happen in my life on the anniversary of losing my arm, and I think it was because of my religious background and everything, and I felt that sooner or later something would happen that would be significant. Anyway, literally to the minute that I lost my arm, 10 years later, my wife tells me she's pregnant. And you can imagine that gave me enormous joy. It sent off this rocket of adrenaline inside of me. What I didn't realise was it had triggered my first ever episode of manic depression or bipolar illness. I didn't know what had happened to me. The first thing I did was I jumped into my car. I was in a full suit. I jumped into my car, which was a Lotus. I went down to Waterloo Station, and I got all the tramps together, and I bought them all breakfast to celebrate. And it was you can imagine a weird setup. We were all there, all having breakfast. Nobody quite knew why. And eventually, what happens when you suffer from bipolar illness, as I say, it's now become fashionably known as bipolar illness. Before it was called manic depression. Manic depressive psychosis. Manic is the nearest word in the English language to the word maniac, and obviously depressive as well. People don't understand the mood swings that go on in bipolar illness. And for me, what it did was it just sent me into this enormous euphoria, and I started doing all kinds of crazy things. And nobody, first of all, knew what was going on. And eventually, I started to get, more and more. I've done loads of crazy things. I remember once I bought £4,000 worth of tickets at Middlesbrough Football Club and gave them away to kids outside McDonald's because I thought prices were too high. And I got sectioned under the Mental Health Act for doing it. But over the years, I've been sectioned. I've been well now, I hasten to add this, I've been well now for the last 11 years. And I've been sectioned 12 times under the Mental Health Act. And it's nothing to be proud of, but equally, it wasn't anything I could help, it just happened. Father Bell, as I say, he was with me through all my life one way and another, both when he was alive and of course in memories I have of him. When I lost my arm, he was the first person to come to my bed at North Tees Hospital. He brought my parents back from here, he comforted them, and I consider him to be a really great man. He was a very important figure in my life.